So now talking about our Chennai chapter. So we have Rinku as the chairperson heading the Chennai chapter. We have Priya, who is going to be is the project head for the Flow mentorship cell. And we have currently 4 team members. Vanita, that's myself. Jyoti. We have Nancy, Satish, and Arthi Srinath. Again, as we have more people and this has more tractions, we'll be adding in more core team members as we grow. Apart from this, we have Flow mentors who have graciously accepted people in matter of their own subject matter expertise who are wanting to offer mentors are Ms. Raji Venkatraman, Ms. Himore Maya, we have Devya Shivkumar, and Ms. Rachna Kumar. And we also have some external mentors who are subject matter expertise in their field like Sriram Rajgopal, Susan Thomas, Anand Aral. And just to putting a face to the names. And then thank you and really looking forward to working with you. Thanks, Rinku. Now we can take the questions or how Rinku wants to go about it.
I think we'll start with the launch and we'll take all questions together towards the end. Is that okay, Priya and Vanita? Great. Thank you, Vanita. That was a great explanation. And thank you, Prasanna, for welcoming everyone. Good evening, everyone. It's indeed a pleasure to introduce our special guest for the evening. Aarti Krishna is the Managing Director of Sundaram Fasteners Limited, one of the flagship companies of the world-renowned TVS Group and a leading automotive component manufacturer in India. She is a postgraduate in economics and has a management degree from the University of Michigan, US. Always a very keen student, she pursued her passion in finance, economics, and management through her education. Aarti was inducted into the company exactly 3 decades ago in 1990 as a management trainee, where she learned a great deal about the working of all the plants and quality systems. Incidentally, Sundaram Fasteners was the first company in India to get ISO certified in 1990. Her interest in quality and quality systems were encouraged and honed right from the beginning. And as she grew within the company, she took over roles in business strategy, systems, quality management, total productive maintenance, and was at the company's helm from 2006 onwards as executive director, and eventually took over as managing director in April 2018. Under her leadership, Sundaram Fasteners became the first company in the world to be awarded the prestigious Deming Award, which is the highest recognition in the world for TQM in 2018 for 17 of its plants simultaneously. Aarti Krishna was the first woman head of the company to receive the same, another feather in her cap. Aarti has grown the company tremendously over the last decade with new customers, new products, new geographies, plants, higher revenue, and a remarkable bottom line. Under her careful and watchful eye, the company's response to the COVID-19 crisis as of now has been excellent, and several unique initiatives have been taken across all plants to ensure utmost safety for all employees and their families. She juggles many roles: a wife, mother of 2 young teenagers, a dedicated and active proponent of mental health, inclusivity, and a generous philanthropist. And finally, to those who know her well, she is extremely passionate about giving back and a good friend. Welcome, Aarti, to Flow Chennai. We are so proud to have you amidst us today.
Thank you, Rinku. Such kind words. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So,
would we please have you virtually? No, we'll just virtually launch the, inaugurate the cell.
Sure.
Priya, if you could just do that, help her with that.
I virtually launched the shell.
Yes, there is a first for everything. I think we don't have audio for this. We're just reiterating what I said, Aarti.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well done. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Aarti. And now we'd like you to take us on your journey of success, incredible amount of hard work, and how mentoring has been important for you in your life. The stage is all yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you all today at the launch of a very important initiative by Flow. When Rinku asked me to launch this program, I have to tell you, I hesitated and said no many, many times. But Rinku persisted and I agreed because mentoring has been such a personal and enriching experience for me all my life. And I feel I should be able to share my views on this, especially I think with FICCI Ladies Organization, where I feel women need to have more of a helping hand and women need to be empowered and we need to have more access to mentoring as women. And therefore I said, I have to do this not only for Rinku, but definitely if I have to walk the talk, I have to be able to join this. So thank you very much, Rinku, for inviting me. And I think mentoring has been the reason for my getting better at my job and taking pride in my company, I have to say. I've had the privilege of amazing mentors in my life. I think in school, it was my PE teacher who was when I look back, the most amazing mentor. She always taught me right from wrong. She showed me that a leader always inspires and uplifts other people. And I think that was where I look, I don't know, we had fancy words like mentorship at that point of time. But she was definitely a person who shaped me and taught me values which have stood me in good stead for the rest of my life. I think in college, it was my seniors in my basketball team. I think college was more disconnected in school. We didn't have, I feel, as much connect to the teachers. But what I learned and who were the mentors for me in college were all my basketball team, the seniors on the team, who taught me to excel and be a team player. And at work, I had the privilege of having my father as a mentor. I look back now and I realize that initially what I thought was going to be a very difficult relationship, having your father as a boss, turned out to be a very beautiful relationship because he constantly played the role of a mentor and had his mentorship hat on, constantly wanting me to imbibe the culture of the company and the leadership values of the company. And that was always done with, in a sense, a mentorship hat, because we really didn't share a boss-subordinate relationship because I did not report to him. I reported to a president of the organization right from the beginning. And in TVS itself, where mentorship has been a time-honored tradition, they believe that fathers and sons, because there were no daughters at that point of time, fathers and sons shouldn't actually be mentors, or fathers shouldn't be mentors. And so it was uncles and nephews who were mentors in TVS. The uncles helped the nephews imbibe the culture and understand the standard operating protocols and the procedures of the company and learn about the legacy of the company. And so in my company, I think the uncle who stood in was the president of the company. And my father always wore the mentorship hat with me whenever he wanted to teach me, I feel, all leadership lessons. So I was very privileged to have my father as a mentor. He was a leader who always stood tall. He walked the talk. It was very easy to follow him and just try to do what he was doing. And that is mentorship in a way. He helped me to make the right choices. The choices are not always about winning. And sometimes it's about allowing others to win and being a team player. And I have to say, in life, I always had the good fortune of having my mother as a mentor. She is an entrepreneur and an inspiration to me. She showed me it's never too late to start contributing to society, never too late. And her work ethic and her desire to give back to society is a lesson to me every day. She constantly looks for new venues to be able to contribute. She constantly looks to showcase, I think, India and South India and our crafts as well working ethic. So for me, she's been one of my mentors all through my life. So I'm very, very fortunate. Now I'd like to move on from a personal mentorship, what I have enjoyed, to Sundaram Fasteners. At Sundaram Fasteners, I have to say, mentoring as a professional, or should I say in a formal fashion, started in 2004. But I think right from 1966, mentoring started in Sundaram Fasteners, just like in all the TVS other companies, where the founder of the company always took time to address all the employees 2 to 3 times a year, everybody, about what's happening in the economy. It was sort of informal mentorship, hand-holding, and constant communication, which helps people become better, learn, and also in a more informal setting where it's not a boss-subordinate relationship. So in a way, a communication also, I think, is a very useful mentoring tool. And I have continued to ensure that we continue to communicate with everybody to learn and to share what we are learning constantly when we are traveling around, because a lot of people don't have the ability to move and travel to different countries and learn. So we constantly bring back these stories and share it with our people. And the formal mentoring program itself was launched in 2004. We had one identified mentor. We had 12 mentees at that point of time. We decided that we need to have this because a lot of new graduate trainees were joining, and we wanted to ensure that our culture and our legacy is imbibed by everybody who is joining the organization. We then started structuring the mentorship program, and now we have a very structured mentorship program with policies, goals, and criteria for selection of the mentors. We have had almost 2,000 successful mentoring relationships so far in Sundaram Fasteners. And all mentor and mentees will go through a one-day training, and then they'll go through a one-week orientation and mentorship learning program. And we also celebrate Mentoring Week, where we conduct competitions and programs to help bonding. For example, we last year had a SFL cricket match, which helped bind mentors and mentees in the spirit of sportsmanship. We encourage once a week coffee with a mentor concept, where you walk away from your desk, you have a walking meeting around the campus, and you can talk about your challenges, your successes outside of your workplace. We have ensured that the mentors whom we have chosen are, they're never the boss of the person. So there are no ego relationships involved, and the subordinate actually sometimes even has a choice of choosing a functional mentor or a leadership mentor, depending on their mentorship stories, which they put forward in our portal. So we have a Sundaram Fasteners employee portal where we have a mentorship page. Everyone shares their stories, everyone shares their successes and challenges. And sometimes we have mentees who come up to us and say, please, can I be paired with this mentor? Or we'll have a mentor saying, I'm willing to work with these people. So that is, and our mentees are now, a lot of our mentees, I would say almost some 400 of our mentees are now mentors as well. And if you look at it, for us, mentoring has many goals. But to just make a long story short, I would say dissemination of knowledge, cultural assimilation, which is very important for us, leadership development, and career path counseling is what I would zero in on, very 4 focused goals which we practice, especially for new managers who are stepping up from individual performance roles into management roles, leadership roles. We have a very structured training on how to become better managers in Sundaram Fasteners, how to walk the talk in Sundaram Fasteners, how to ensure we make ethical decisions, and integrity is always there in every one of our decisions that we make. We also undertake technical, functional, and personal development mentorships. Sometimes if there are personal performance improvement initiatives which we need to be taken, then we pair those people with coaches and mentors who can help them, whether it's functional training or EQ training. We ensure that we make a match between the mentor and mentee and make that happen. Today, we're very proud to say that we have over 387 active mentoring relationships. And when we started, it was 1:12, and we worked towards a goal of 1:1. Today, we have for every one mentor, we have 2 mentees. We are moving towards having a 1:1. I think hopefully in another year or two, we will be a 1:1 with mentors and mentees. And we ensure that the first 2 years anyone joins the organization, they are immediately paired, so they're never without a mentor when they first join. And some people actually ask to continue that relationship, and then that informally continues after the first 2 years. And some people sometimes who maybe change jobs or move to a new sort of functional area will ask, can I now have a mentor again? Then we make sure that that happens again. And HR manages this entire thing. We have large conferences. We have a mentoring conference every year where the mentors and the mentees present both their challenges and their successes. We talk about what worked, what didn't work, and what should we make better every year. And it's a very, I would say, a huge learning for everybody to understand what works, what doesn't work. And when we started bringing women into the organization, which was not so long ago, we initially said, should we pair women with women mentors? So we started looking, should we bring in mentors from outside, because we didn't have that many women who were in higher grades in the organization. But I'm very pleased to say that a lot of the men took up the mantle of being the mentors, and very successful relationships have culminated from that, where I think people understood themselves better outside their work as well. So now we have almost I would say about 500 women in the organization who are all paired. Also mentors who are now mentees and mentors, both men and women, who have had very successful relationships through this. So it's been an extremely successful program in Sundaram Fasteners. And I want to thank you today for inviting me to share my thoughts on this with Flow. And I wish Flow and its members very great success with your mentoring program. It's something which is very, very needed today. And I'm so happy that you've decided to launch this. Congratulations and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aarti. Incredible. The amount of work that has gone into mentoring and the kind of, total transformation it's brought about, right from being a company where there were few women at the top to now having hundreds of them. I'm sure it's a story in itself. And all kudos to you. So I would like to point out at this time that from Sundaram Fasteners, we have Susan Thomas, who is a mentor for us, and she is part of our webinar today. So Susan, thank you for being here as well. Similarly for Mr. R. Anand, who is a mentor as well for Flow Chennai. Aarti, just one question. Though you always say that, it's a family business that you joined and, you inherited a lot of good values and, the integral structure, your work style has often been seen as someone who's very entrepreneurial and very sharp in terms of taking decisions. And what would you say, or rather, why do you think it is important for startups to have mentors?
People have said all over, as you see, whether it's Hillary Clinton who said, it takes a village, or Sheryl Sandberg who said, lean in. I mean, people have said it in so many ways, in so many shapes and forms. But it always helps to have someone who's invested in you, who is, I would say, not a boss or somebody who's your subordinate or your peer, who actually has maybe sometimes experienced something which they can share with you, who has already, I think, has the wisdom to be able to help you make choices or show you the right from wrong. It's up to you tomorrow to make that choice yourself, but at least show you what could be your options tomorrow. So when you're a startup, I'm sure there are not so many places you can actually reach out. You're not sure about where you might be able to get knowledge. Therefore, sometimes it's easy to, when you're paired with a mentor, somebody who can hold your hand, who can coach you, who is there just to help you succeed. I mean, there could not be a more special relationship, I feel. So whether it's a startup or I don't sometimes feel that only startups need mentors. Sometimes when you're in the middle of the journey, sometimes you actually need a mentor more because you're not sure maybe how much more is this journey going to last? Am I going to last in this journey at all? Sometimes I feel like actually when you're in the middle of the journey, you look for a mentor much more. Or sometimes you look for a mentor when you start to do new things which you don't know anything about, but which you have a passion about, but you might need technical assistance or you might need knowledge to be given to you. Then, you can reach out to these people without feeling like, should it be like a commercial relationship? What do they get out of it? What do I get out of it? So I feel a mentor in that sense gives without thinking about taking. And that's a very special thing.
Great. Thank you so much. And
Thank you
I
so
could
much.
go on endlessly, but I think in the interest of time and I know that you also have another appointment. So I would like to just thank you from all the members at Flow Chennai. Thank you so much for taking time out and for being with us here today. It really is a special moment. We've
Thank
all
you.
known you. Our senior members have all known you as our past chair's daughter. And I think today it's the next gen taking over. So I do know that we're all as a chapter very proud.
I hope I made your past president proud with the talk, because she's been telling me, how did you finally agree? I said, it's because it's mentoring. It's because it's mentoring. So thank you very much for pulling me out of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Aarti. Thanks, Atan. And now, Priya, I'd like you to start your conversation with the three other ladies who've really, really made sure that we've been able to launch or inaugurate our mentoring cell with so much pride. Thank you, Lakshmi, for taking out time and just agreeing to drop your calls and everything and be here with us. Hemu, you're a rock star. You're always there for us. You're our member, and we're really proud to have you here. Nimi, a person whose passion is always mentoring and she leads by example. It's indeed an honor to have all of you over. And Priya, over to you.
Thank you, Rinku. I'll start off with dissemination of knowledge. That's something which I caught from Aarti's talk today. I think every mentor selflessly disseminates their knowledge to mentees who are there for them. So with that note, mentors are a secret weapons of successful startups. A startup can have it all: a good idea, an expanding customer base, funding, a great outlook, yet find itself floundering and struggling to deal with a growing team, or figuring out the best way to use the funding for their expansion. And that's where the right mentor could be invaluable, nudging the founders in the right direction. Today, we have three entrepreneurs who made a mark for themselves in unique fields as a part of the inauguration of the Flow Mentorship Cell. Let us discover the secrets of these founders. I'm going to do a quick introduction, though we had a video, but it's just for us to see what they've achieved, and it's a great honor to have them all here. So I'm going to introduce Lakshmi Potluri. Lakshmi is a management graduate from Columbia Business School, has over 14 years of global experience in several leadership roles in finance, technology, e-commerce, and digital media at IBM, Goldman Sachs, Jabong, Shopify, and more. A recipient of Entrepreneur of the Year from Rotary, as a panelist at many prestigious events such as NASSCOM, FICCI, IAMS, and the speaker at many multinational companies. She's currently the Chief Executive Officer at DCF Ventures. DCF Ventures is a destination for responsible entrepreneurs, connecting entrepreneurs with corporates, investors, and subject matter experts. They're also a gateway for corporates to access the Israeli innovation ecosystem through their partnership with SOSA, an Israeli startup enablement platform. As a co-founder of Jabong, she became active in entrepreneurship world and has been an angel investor herself, having invested in companies in India and abroad. Some of her companies include in consumer tech space, such as velvetcase.com, travelingspoon.com, Per Organics, organic women's hygiene products, Driver's Cart, that was acquired by DriveU and others. She's our own Chennai girl based in Mumbai presently. Welcome, Lakshmi.
Thank you very much, Priya, for the warm. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for the warm introduction.
Thank you. Our next guest here is Hemu Ramaya. I think all of us know her. Hemu is a managing director of Shop4 Solutions Private Limited, a consulting firm she set up in 2008 along with her husband, Jay Subramaniam. Having a strong backing of 33 years of experience in retail, she incorporated the firm with an intent to focus on real estate, design, retail consulting, and private equity. She founded the landmark chain of books and leisure stores in 1987, her first store in Chennai, and went to create a chain of 18 stores across the country. Landmark, as we all know, was the landmark and one of the best design stores in the wide range of international products and legendary customer service changed the way people buy in India. Hemu was instrumental in getting Landmark the ISO certification, which was first in retail in the country. She founded a distribution import publishing company called Westland Books to establish the supply chain. This company was subsequently acquired by Amazon. She's also the founder of landmarkonthenet.com, which was the earliest omni-channel retailer in India. Hemu has been a trendsetter in all areas of design, technology, concept, or product. And in 2008, Tata Trent acquired Landmark. She's currently on board of few companies as an independent lady director. Welcome, Hemu. Our next speaker or the guest is Nirmala Shankaran. Nirmala, an alumnus of IIM Bangalore, Sri Ram College of Commerce, is one of the founders of HeyMath, a pioneer in EdTech with 20 years of experience in online teaching and learning of mathematics. Developed in collaboration with the University of Cambridge, HeyMath has established a strong footprint internationally, and the program has consistently produced results impacting more than 1 million students and 5,000 teachers globally. A 3 times Pulitzer Prize winner and many, many more accolades to her credit, Nirmala Shankaran is a chief evangelist and leads product design, innovation, and talent management at HeyMath. Prior to founding HeyMath, she worked for over a decade in product development at Citibank, Bahrain, and in UK. She has qualifications on building a global enterprise at Harvard Business School's Asia Center, Stanford University's Seed Transformation Program for Business Leaders. Nirmala is a strong believer in empowerment of women. She talks regularly on entrepreneurship and leadership for the 21st century and is a mentor at the IIM Bangalore's NSRCEL for entrepreneurship. Welcome, Nirmala.
Thank you so much, Priya. Thank you, Rinku, for inviting me. The minute I saw the topic of today's launch, Accelerating Women Entrepreneurs, I said, I'm going to definitely make time for this. Thank you.
Most welcome. So my first question is for Nirmala. So everybody wanted to know, but I think it is for understanding what math is. What prompted you to start HeyMath?
Okay, I got to rewind back to 20 years ago. We actually completed 20 years last month, and we had to celebrate virtually, which was really sad because I had planned for a huge bash. Because surviving 20 years is quite a long time. I'm sure Hemu and Lakshmi will concur on ups and downs that you go through. Anyway, so I think 3 factors came together that led to the conception of HeyMath. This was in 1999. That was the start of the dot-com boom, and the power of the internet had just been discovered for commercial applications. Around the same time, India was emerging as a global brand. We had earned our 5 minutes of fame for having solved the Y2K software issue. I was in Citibank London at that time and had been with the bank for almost 12 years. While that was an amazing experience that I would never pass on, being with Citibank, I had started developing the itch to do something new and entrepreneurial. So after many, many months of research, I stumbled upon a problem that grabbed my attention, and that was the acute shortage of math teachers. There was a lot of media coverage on how students were struggling in math and how fear, anxiety, hate, these kind of words are commonly associated with the subject. So the question we asked ourselves back in 2000 was, what if we could digitize teaching methodologies from the best teachers in the world and make that accessible via an internet-based platform to every student and every teacher in the world? And what if we could develop this solution from India? That was how HeyMath came into being. And since this was about education, we knew early on that we had to, we needed legitimacy and a solid brand to build a high quality product. So we achieved this in 2 ways. One, by collaborating with the University of Cambridge, and by digitizing proven practices from Singapore's high-performing academic system. After that, we contextualized the solution for every country's curriculum. We talk today about Atmanirbhar Bharat. I think Hemath is an example of a global product made in India for the rest of the world and for India.
So proud of that. And that too from Chennai, from down south. So, so um, Hemu, this question is for you. Having founded multiple ventures successfully during these trying times, what is the mantra for keeping our customers loyal to one's brand?
You're talking about COVID times
Yeah.
or generally?
Yeah, COVID time, especially now, the last 4 months, but generally also, every time I think an entrepreneur has to reinvent himself to keep up with what's happening in technology or whatever. So, keeping those in time, in mind, what do you think is
See, the last 5 months have been very trying. Some businesses have done exponentially well. It depends on what you do and what you've been doing. And some businesses have just shut down. So you could be either end of the spectrum. I know lots of businesses who have actually done very, very well in COVID times. But for everyone else, especially retail, where there's a physical customer interaction, it's only a CRM that works. I mean, you need to keep in touch with your customer. You need to, exploit that database of what you've maintained for so long. Keep in touch, make offers, especially like, for example, I do a lot of work in food. So lots of restaurants who I know who have not been open have actually used these 4 or 5 months to create new menus, try out new dishes, and actually send it out to their loyal customer base. I mean, what more do you want in a COVID time that one hot meal lands up at your door and says, hey, compliments, I'm trying this out. You will never forget, the brand. It's the same thing with, offers of inventory clearances that you want to do. But all this you can do only when you have a really good CRM program. So no matter how small a business you run, you really need to capture data about your customers from day one. Just something a lot of young entrepreneurs, don't do it. Your customers are nameless, faceless, they come and go. But in times like this, then that doesn't work for you. So I think keeping in touch, making them offers, making, something to say, I'm there for you. I know people who have given out COVID kits, and people who have, food experimentation has been massive in this 5 months. I know lots of people who've tried out baking, tried out new lines, and offers and deals on new products, and, keeping in touch with stuff, birthdays, anniversaries, sending out little gifts, sending flowers. So the only thing you can do is keep in touch, unless you're in a space where you can actually delight your customer. You're not expecting, something from your vendor, but they show up. So then when times open and everything happens, you're back in the market with them. So I guess you need to keep in touch.
Thank you for that, Hema. I think what you mentioned is as a CRM for the members, it's a customer relationship management that you need to keep in mind. So do you also suggest that we have a software, or plainly keeping them in an Excel sheet is also good for new startups? Do you think that should be enough at the moment?
No, I think to start with, you have to have a system of capturing the data, first of all. It doesn't take any time at the time of billing. It's a number, it's a name. But then you can do your data analytics on it, because analysis now is not expensive. It's not like it used to be earlier.
Right.
Who bought, what they bought, when they bought, birthdays, anniversaries. I mean, this basic data, absolutely basic. But it'll hold you in good stead as times go by. As your business gets older and your database gets wider and they move away to different cities. That's what happened with us. When we started expanding into the north, we opened in Bombay, Delhi, Lucknow, Ahmedabad. We had customers from there, which was like surprising. So it sets you off in a new business. It helps.
Thank you, Hemu. Over to Lakshmi. Lakshmi, running 2 successful businesses simultaneously, what are the 3 criterion for entrepreneurs to making their enterprise digitally savvy?
So obviously, digital is a very large and used and misused word. But keeping it in the context that everyone thinks of digital, I think first thing is, because we have a mix of, for startups, it's a little different. For established organizations, it's a little different. But broadly, I think if you look at an organization, we have to really assess if we are digitally ready to take on and make that transformation, right? That could include assessment of your people. It could include assessment of your setup, your infrastructure, your technology, all of that. So, for example, just to put in context, somebody working at a payment gateway company cannot say, "Oh, I'm going to go to the bank physically, make a payment, or I'm going to only do transactions on cash," and so on. They need to actually believe in it and embrace it, right? So that digital assessment is something that we need to have. For startups, of course, today, most of the early stage companies typically think digital first because that's very easy to start. So the products are usually thought of from a digital perspective. So perhaps here I will think about a little bit more organizations, how they can look at entering a digital space. The second thing which I've seen across organizations, existing organizations that want to move to the digital world is investment in people. Yes, we assess if our organization, our product is ready for digital. But at the same time, truly digital means investing in people to make sure that takes off, right? It's a very important channel. Like Hemu mentioned, analytics, data, all of that is very easy, but you still need to make sure that somebody owns it and somebody drives it. And very often that I think kind of doesn't really get the attention that it can. And a lot of businesses have not really taken full advantage of digital just simply because they don't invest. They just put one more existing guy or person over there and say, okay, you manage this also. And this basically is not tracked actively. So that's the second thing. Invest in a team focused on digital. It can even be one person. I'm not saying when I say team, have an army of people. That's not what I'm saying. But make sure there is one owner, one person who speaks digital, understands the potential, and goes and runs with it. The third thing, kind of, going back to what was already mentioned earlier, digital enables us to get so much data, so much easier at your fingertips. It can be tracked on an hourly basis, minute basis, day basis, and depending again on your business, how you want to track it, right? So you have so much of data in your fingertips. And there are plenty of easy tools. There are plenty of sophisticated tools, depending on the size scale of your business. That gives you a peek into your customer's mindset. It will allow you to understand, is your product really relevant for today? Are you really servicing your customer the way your customer wants to be serviced? And, you'll also know what else is not being serviced, and you'll open up new opportunities for you. So I think investing in that analytics and data, making sure you look at it as a leader, as a person who's going to be driving it, I think that's the third thing I would say is extremely critical. And I'll pause.
Thanks. I think
I just wanted to say more, and then I was like, only 3, stop.
No, you could give us more. Why not, And I think just top of the mind, if you look at, there are 3 things that I'm seeing is one is technology, one is digitally enablement, and putting the right person in the right place is what I think in a nutshell is what you're trying to tell, as well as, what Hemu and, I think Nirmala also has similar experiences, but for everybody to understand, I just wanted to see, because a lot of people do not invest in technology and don't invest in good people. They want generalists and not specialists. So that's where we were thinking about asking you that from, obviously from a person who's been there, done that. It's a great thing to hear. So over to Nirmala again. So we are sure that there are many milestones you've achieved. And what is the most exciting experience for you with this venture, Nirmala?
Yeah, I was trying to look back on 20 years and say which are the 2 I can talk about. So yeah, I think one of the biggest highs was when our work got discovered by Foreign Affairs journalist Thomas Friedman. And he quoted Heymath as an example of globalization in education in his bestseller, The World is Flat. And I remember being in the Changi airport, and obviously you spend time at the bookstore when you're waiting for your flight. And it was so, I can't describe that moment when I picked up that book, which is right in the top, and turned to the page 283 or whatever it was, and saw the company written about over there. I was saying, my God, this seems like such an unreal experience. And soon after that, he featured us in his op-ed column of the New York Times. And he described our mission as to be the map Google. And honestly, we had never described our mission like that to ourselves ever before. And I said, this guy is the chief marketing officer for Heymath, because he's the one who's really succinctly saying that after listening to you, I think you are trying to be the map Google. And we had no idea about the power of his articles, nor did we know the power of New York Times. Because just after that op-ed came out, we received close to 20,000 inquiries from all over the world in a matter of 10 days. and our server in Singapore crashed. And we physically went from Chennai to Singapore to upgrade and replace that server. The second euphoric moment, which to me is an emotional thing, is an invitation that we received in 2009 to present Hemath to 9 provincial ministers of education in South Africa. And that laid the foundation for the next 10 years of our work at a very grassroots level to build teaching capacity and reverse the historical injustices of apartheid. I don't know how many of you know, but for decades, the Black child was denied access to good quality math education.
Oh.
And actually, when Nelson Mandela came to power, they actually said mathematics is a fundamental human right. And we were so excited to be part of a process that could use mathematics as a lever for social change. So last year, when one of the predominantly Black provinces that implemented our solution topped the country in mathematics and outperforming all the other, predominantly one or two predominantly white provinces, when this one province, came on tops after using our program, that moment I cannot describe to you, because it almost felt we were part of a historical change to undo the damages of apartheid.
Wow. You know what? I actually removed out of your introduction, regarding this New York Times mention, because I wanted you to say that, because it's something to hear from the, from the founder rather than me telling, as an introduction. So thanks for that, Nirmala. It was such an honor to hear that, from a Chennai grown product being spoken about. It's really wonderful.
Thank you.
So Hemo, I always, was thinking, what are the questions we should ask Hemo, because she's done it, been there. What can I ask? I can't ask about books anymore. But then, yeah, this is a question for you. In your tenure, you would have been, you would have seen a lot of people pitching for, for VC funding or whatever. So, what's the most important criteria you see missing sometimes? What does a entrepreneur miss while they're pitching to a VC?
Actually, this whole mentorship really thing should be put into different groups. I think the first initial part of a venture, a real startup, is like seed money. And I really think seed money should be raised by the entrepreneur, family, and friends. One mistake people do is try and pitch, some seed money amounts to angel investors, which, I mean, there's a complete mismatch there. So what the seed money does is you raise it from family and friends, puts your money on the line, and helps you establish some kind of proof of concept. Is this idea going to work at all? I know you need to be convinced before you even try and pitch to someone else, because if you come insecure to someone, then, one is starting the process of explaining the business to the entrepreneur, which is not what an investor wants to do. So that, I think, mistake number one, at level one, they should just do it by themselves. Once your proof of concept is established, then you can come in with, come asking for slightly more money, asking for angel investment, where the amounts are a little larger, but your business is established, you know that you can do it. But again, my experience has been a lot of people come in with a Excel sheet. This is what I'm doing X, and my revenue is this. And by going by the same nature of, it's taken me 1.5 years to get here, but in the same nature that they just extrapolate a number. The moment I see that, I'm just not interested in the venture anymore, because they've not thought it through. If you have 5 stores today and you're doing, say, 1 lakh, okay, per day in those stores, or 1 lakh per month, or 10 lakhs per month, or whatever, it doesn't mean that if you do 500 stores, you're going to do the same. First of all, you can't do 500 stores. Then they say, I'm going to do 50 stores. So it just becomes a number. When you place a number in an Excel sheet and say, I'm going to do 10 times as many stores, so I will do 10 times as much, and my expenses will go up this way. And it's a whole chain of, you're looking at an information memorandum. It doesn't make sense to you. So I think you need to vet it. So one thing I definitely would advise is vet it before you come for money, because it doesn't look good to come with a, half prepared information. And a lot of entrepreneurs are very passionate about the idea. I also went through that, so I understand where they come from. But you're passionate about your idea, but you have no clue about numbers and how it's going to happen, 2 years from now and 5 years from now. So they only think, give me money now, then, in the next 9 months, I'll have X. Yeah. But what about 3 years later? What about 5 years later? And what does the investor get in return? how, and if this plan fails, what is your plan B? Nobody has a plan B. If it fails, how does the investor get out? What do you get? So I know there's a risk element from the investor's point of view, but how much risk? I mean, that's a educated gamble that the investor takes, which is so you need to get the two perspectives in alignment. So that's one thing I find, and I think basically a little more homework before they pitch. That's been study your business in detail. I know month by month. This thing of extrapolating a number never works. It needs to go month by month. There are good seasons, there are bad seasons, there are high margins, there are low margins. There's competition that can come up. There's black swan events come up. How do you cater for all this in your pitch? So you need to think it through before you pitch. That's all. The better the pitch, the more chances you have of getting some money. So
thank you. And
whatever
so
the
drag and
pitch.
drop doesn't work here. So drag,
Huh?
control C, control V doesn't really work here, I guess. So, I mean, like you said, every season you have to see if it's a product, what works well for different, times, and, high and low, there's always, so every product has got a cycle, and then we need to factor those, I guess. Yeah.
It's not only product, even for us, a simple thing like a book and music store is a lifestyle store. And we thought we could go all India. Okay, I'm a first generation entrepreneur, so I had no mentors. So I had to live and learn along the way. So you go and open a store in Bangalore, you open one in Bombay and open one in Delhi. It's a different animal. I can't say I'm doing this kind of sale here. So for so many square feet, I'll do that kind of sale in Delhi. No, because Chennai is a fantastic reading market. And so is Bangalore. The South is a completely different animal and the North is completely different. It's more about glamour and, other things sell. You won't sell books in the same way that you sell here. So you don't know that till you actually do it. So you can't put this on an Excel sheet and try and grow a business. It doesn't work like that. You need more homework. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. I think that is a great piece of advice, because a lot of us, from idea to ideation, then putting it into a structure, it's all a struggle for some time till they actually master that art. And that's where I think mentorship plays a very critical role, in terms of validation itself. So thanks for that, Hemu. So my next question goes to Lakshmi again. Having a global outlook, what's your advice to business owners on how to scale to the international landscape?
So if you're in the early stage of your journey, or typically if you're thinking of international expansion, you probably have established, some meaningful scale here. I would say look at partnerships. Partnerships is something that is underutilized, and if you can piggyback, and depending on the sector, depending on the industry, there's partners for every sector. For example, if you're into CRM, we have our Chennai's company Freshworks. Freshworks has moved to US. So why can't we either partner or piggyback with somebody who's already in that space, or complementary businesses, Salesforce and so on as well. So that's one. So if you're targeting SMEs, there's equivalent of Tally like Intuit and those kind of businesses. So partnerships is something, especially if you're going into a new market, go with somebody who understands that market and try to see, don't get too caught up, in the margins. They are always important. You have to be a business. The fundamental basic thing of business is you do want to be profitable, you do want to make money, but new markets, you need to have somebody who's strong, who knows how to enter the market, build your distributorship, and get you new customers and clients. So that's one thing which I'm a firm believer of. And it's not even applicable just to international markets. I think even wherever in your local markets, partnerships play a huge role. So that's one. If you're a little bit more early stage, because I met a company the other day, they're launching something for pregnant women. And they have, just kind of kickstarted in India, but they think the international market is very relevant for them. And I believe it is. In those cases, I think working with accelerators in those countries is something which is very valuable. The equivalence of Y Combinator, and there's many such accelerators around the world, depending again on the geography that they are interested in. So that's something that for companies which are not huge can take advantage of accelerators, which open up several avenues, mentors, investors, people from the business and all of that. The kind of businesses that can take advantage of e-commerce platforms, it's a no-brainer. Try to go on marketplaces like Amazon.com, Etsy. Again, gives you access to global customers. And likewise, even if you're a service provider, there are so many platforms for services like Fiverr.com and so on. So there are several digital platforms where you can kickstart your business and look at, the response, and then you amplify it with other channels. You can use partnerships, you can use digital marketing, and so on. I think these are some very, very good channels to kickstart and take advantage of the learnings that, the local audience has. But before you even think of international, of course, you want to do some homework, understand your customers, talk to a lot of people, make sure your product is, the right fit. How do you price it? All those basics are something you could do. You could even try some, guerrilla tactics, like, just think, open up a Kickstarter campaign, for example, if it's a product. Kickstarter is crowdfunding just for the purpose of the larger audience. So try to see how your response is. So there are many ways you can do it, but I'll kind of leave it there, talking about a few, I think, key ways that you can look at international markets.
On the same breath, Lakshmi, I just wanted to ask you another question is, how does one create a true e-commerce marketplace, like do's and don'ts based on your experience with Jabong? Because I feel that today, when you look at women who want to get into businesses, most of them are looking at e-commerce as one platform to kickstart from, for like, it could be home entrepreneurs, but they use that platform as, to get onto online sales and all that. So what do you think is how does one create that if somebody's got an idea to do it?
Just to understand, you want to know if somebody's got an idea, how do they take advantage of marketplaces, maybe? Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, again, very early stage businesses tend to be very hesitant to go online. They're very afraid, like, afraid because they will not get access to the customer names, customer details. So many people go onto Amazon and these marketplaces much later. Again, there are a lot of, early stage companies that go straight off digital first, and they're not afraid. But we do see a mix of both. People are still very hesitant to go. And I've seen several. That's one of the reasons I'm saying that. So don't, wait too long to go online. This is one of your best marketing platforms to go and sell on marketplaces. You cannot find an easier customer acquisition channel. All the marketplaces, Flipkart, Amazon, plenty. And again, here I would emphasize that, if your product is relevant for global, just day one, try to, do both domestic and global. You don't need to do it in sequence. That's one. The second thing is there are a lot of digital marketing channels that you have to use, but at the same time, don't try to do everything yourself. That's something we tend to do. As a homepreneur or a smaller business, we feel like, I have to do everything myself because I'm saving money, or somebody else is going to charge me a lot more. But if you do a little bit of back of the envelope math, I think if your strength is product, if your strength is one of the things, and if marketing is your foray as an entrepreneur, then by all means do it yourself. But usually, there is one or two key areas an entrepreneur has, and time is better spent learning, amplifying what you are very strong at, and letting somebody who knows how to do marketing very well take advantage of the marketing channels that Amazon has, Flipkart has, if you're using marketplaces. They are effective, they are very good, but at the same time, you need someone who knows to do that, to do it for you and help you do it. You will not be able to sit and figure it all out yourself. So the second thing is try to take, experts. It comes in various forms. It could come in the form of an agency, it could come in the form of freelancers and so on, or even the marketplaces themselves offer, and they are very effective. So make sure you try to take advantage of that. And so first thing was go online day one. Second thing is use experts for whatever various areas that you can't do it yourself. Don't try to learn everything yourself. And third thing is invest in understanding your customers a lot more. So talk to a lot more of your customers. As an entrepreneur, we don't find time simply because we're trying to do a lot. But one of the things is keep the customer in the center and make sure that you get a lot more feedback. Talk to them. You'll get a lot of inputs, insights, ideas as well. Customers, once they like your product, they really are very, very forthcoming in sharing more information with you. And I think personally, I feel like this is usually not done enough, talking to our own customers. And if nothing else can be done, please make sure we talk to all your customers. And your first 100, first 1,000 are very, very important customers. And they'll be more forgiving, as you also engage more with them. So, and there are plenty of channels to engage. So you can use all your social handles to engage with them. Call them, like Hinu said, sometimes some people who are influencers send, a few things to wow them. They can be your, people who can actually influence another 100 customers. Make sure you kind of go the extra mile to also do something a little special for them. So make sure the customers at the center and spend enough time talking and in understanding them.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. So due to paucity of time, I'm going to ask one question to all the three of you. Maybe, you can start, Nirmala can start answering. But the question is, a right mentor could be invaluable, steering entrepreneurs away from making mistakes, helping them grow personally and professionally. Is this statement true? I would like to hear from you. So over to Nirmala.
I think mentors are basically your lifeline to keep you sane. Um, Entrepreneurship, I think, is an emotional roller coaster. And you have cycles of anxiety, euphoria, and feelings of isolation all rolled into one. And great mentors know your backstory and therefore support you holistically as an individual. What I find is you get a safe space for ideation and for expression with them and for vulnerability around the challenges that you constantly face. I've relied time and again on two mentors, both of whom are men, and I jokingly call them my agony aunts. One is my brother, who's very close in age to me, and the other is my childhood friend Raghuram Rajan, whom I've known from the time I was in 9th or 10th grade. We've grown up together, and he's my first go-to agony aunt. My brother is close second. Both these mentors are individual with very unique vantage points. They bring in both an 80,000 feet perspective as well as a tactical focus to your problems. I think the key thing is they help you organize your thinking by asking hard questions and keep you tethered to your long-term goals. I think these kind of mentors know the real story and don't sugarcoat things to make you feel good. Another thing about having great mentors is that they don't try to change the core of who you are. So instead, they work around your inherent strengths and shortcomings. As an entrepreneur, I think self-awareness is very, very important in order for you to stay grounded. And a good mentor, I think, helps you sharpen this particular quality and also strengthens your own ability to trust your own gut. So for me, I'm deeply influenced by my mentors. And whenever I'm at crossroads, whether it's my entrepreneurial journey or even personal life, I go back to the basics of, am I making the right assumptions? And have I persevered enough? So these are my, the rigor I try and go through. And I think this is all because of these agony aunts that I have.
That's superb. So you have two, and the agony aunts are not aunts, but the men in your life.
These are the aunts actually, yeah.
Great. Over to Hemu. Let's hear from you.
Actually, keep it short. Like I said, I'm a first generation entrepreneur, learned along the way, made all the mistakes. I think what mentorship does is the mistakes have already been made, right? So your mentor is just going to tell you, don't do this, this is going to happen. So, at least you move the roadblocks. You don't fall into pits which you didn't think you would fall into, and would supplement your great idea. I think that's, to me, mentorship is just that. You have a core strength and you have pluses and you have minuses. The mentor is just supposed to fill in the weaknesses so that the whole thing is a holistic experience. Then it works. Give you time to work on your idea and take care of the, the mundane things like, projections and people and accounts, and just make sure that all that falls into place. Because without that, no idea is good enough.
Right. With the new, the system of, CGST, SGST, one needs to have anybody else, but the accountant is a very critical factor in our lives right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
At least now it's not a criminal offense. Otherwise, everything would go to jail for. Yeah.
Lakshmi, what about you? What do you think?
So I'll keep it short as well. Kind of like what Hemu said, I have also been a first generation in all my things I've done. So I made all the mistakes. Some, have been very expensive mistakes, but I think in hindsight, I've realized, okay, I should have done this and that. But I've also, unknowingly, like Aarti said, over the years, you've leaned on different people for different things. And when you look back, they become, some are friends, some are family, some are, people who have, maybe your colleagues who have become good friends and so on, acquaintances. and each one have the experience and expertise, right? So if I stumble into something as trivial as, okay, I met two great candidates, for some reason I'm not able to make up my mind, I might actually pick up my phone and speak to somebody who I feel has that ability to help me differentiate or help me go to the next level to figure out my decision making. Or it could be a bad day where I might just, be just having, going back and acting like a 5-year-old, and somebody with whom I could, behave a certain way and bear it all, and just have that, like Nirmala said, like the agony aunt of the day. But most importantly, I think the people who become your mentors, whether it's 1 or 5, I think they really fuel your ambitions. Make sure that you don't lose sight of your goals. Because they know the whole backstory, right? Like Nirmala mentioned. So they know who you are, what's driving you, what you're going through this whole rigmarole, whether it's entrepreneurship or anything else, and whether it's personal or professional. So they make sure that, you don't steer away. They keep you on track. They fuel your ambitions. They remind you of what you want. And they don't let you give up. And that's really what my ecosystem, whether I call them friends, mentors, and they've come in different forms. And it's not been one for me. And as your journey changes, your mentors also change. And sometimes you seek mentors, sometimes they just, come into your life in different, wearing different hats. And then you realize, oh, okay, this person has been one of my biggest strengths or mentor. So that's been my thought process. But needless to say, they're valuable, and we'll all find our mentors in our own ways.
Right.
In our lives.
Thank you so much for being here. And, we have a couple of questions before I wrap up. So our first question is from Sheetal. I think it's for you, Lakshmi. How are tax implications on e-commerce platform with multiple products? GST implementation interstate. So do you think you'll be able to answer, or can we have a tax consultant answer this? But yeah.
Yeah. So I think the best response will be from a tax consultant, because they're kind of very dynamic. So I wouldn't want to answer a tax specific question, to be very honest. If it's something very straightforward, I would, but GST is very complex and they're still figuring out and rolling it out in many places at the grassroots level. So I'll pass on that.
Sure. So I think for Sheetal, we have a tax consultant as our mentor, Mr. Anand. We'll hand over this question to him as our first assignment. Yeah. I have another question from Mala. What is your opinion on government grants as a source of funds for starting up businesses versus angel or VCs? Maybe it's for Hemo, I'm not sure, but yeah, anyone can answer.
Do you want to take it, Hemo?
Yeah, if you don't mind the paperwork, I guess, because what they say is not really as easy as it looks. Sometimes I've never taken money from the government, so I'm not really qualified to say, but I know it's quite a rigmarole. But if it's easier today, and it is an easier, I mean, if you can get it, why not?
Sure.
I'll just
Or
add.
rather, if you know how to get it.
So it is very cumbersome, like Hemo mentioned, but and especially in specific sectors, DST does have grants. Biotech has a lot of grants, but it's extremely cumbersome. When you look at the application, you almost lose your desire to apply.
Yeah.
But if you're part of, incubators, sometimes there are people who are assisting. They have certain specific, people mandated to assist you through the process. There is some assistance through Startup India also, where they kind of give you some help with directing you to the channels who can guide you through the process. Then on the angel fund, of course, it's a bit hard to do justice on this panel to explain how it works, but definitely it's a very extremely good source. With angel investing, you not only get the funds, but you really get a lot of vested mentors, invariably, because they want to see you succeed, right? Your success is their success as well. So I think you're also signing up for a great, a lot of people who are accomplished in different areas of business who can become your mentors. Not everybody may or may not have the time, but it's something that I think I would recommend looking at angel investments.
Okay, thank you for that. I just wanted to acknowledge that we have members who've joined from other, chapters as well. Thank you for being there and encouraging this whole event and the launch, the inauguration of the mentorship cell at Chennai. So for the members here, I want to let you all know we've been fortunate to really get good mentors on board, and we'll keep adding mentors into the list, because today we've got like 8 to 10 inquiries, but after this launch, I'm assuming there would be a lot more who would be seeking mentorship. we welcome you all. I'm there and I have Jyoti with me. Both of us, we are a call away. You guys can call us and we would take on your, mentorship form. And then we have a process of facilitation. We do an evaluation of what is the requirement from your end and then put you to the right mentor. So typically the process is for 3 to 6 months where the mentor is with the mentee, and post that, if your business venture would go into something more, then we put you into an incubation. If not, you can be on your own, but there's always somebody that you could, ask and call, and we are just a call away. So please make sure that you take up this opportunity to reach out to all of us, and we look forward to being with you. And thank you very much, the panelists today. I really enjoyed doing this, and truly, and it's totally from my heart that I want to thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us, Rinku. Thank you for inviting me. And Priya, thank you for the excellent moderation. Pleasure to be in the company of such esteemed panelists as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Over to Jayashree.
Gone are the days when kingdoms are created only by royalty. So we heard the stories of 4 important personalities who created business empires in the modern world. And such talks are so important to inspire everyone who wish to start up. And the TVS Group is definitely the pride of Chennai, a homegrown brand that is now a household name. So it was a pleasure to hear your story, Aarti, from a management trainee to MD of a company, to know that you started mentoring from 1966 in Sundaram Fasteners. That's amazing. So thank you for sharing your thoughts on the importance of having a mentor. Every panelist we have here today is a trailblazer in their own fields. Landmark was the landmark of Chennai, and 90s kids still miss it. So if they love reading Hemu, thanks to you and your brand, who can speak better than you on customer loyalty? You built customer loyalty that has outlived the brand itself and carries an aura of nostalgia till date. So your views on the importance of customer loyalty, funding, and entrepreneurship was very insightful. Maths is only a friend to few and foe to many. And Nirmala, to know that you have coached 1 million students and 5,000 teachers through HeyMath, what a wonderful service that is. And your thoughts on mentorship and influence it has on budding entrepreneurs has so much truth in it. Now that we are basically living in the virtual world where any physical aspect has a digital counterpart, Lakshmi, your thoughts on digital space and e-commerce are much needed right now. And your global experience has shed light on how important it is to be digitally suave when you want to run your own business. I thank all the speakers, Aarti, Krishna, Lakshmi, Hemu, Nirmala. It was truly a power-packed session. I thank our sponsors, Satyabama University, Credai Chennai, and Radiant Group for their generosity and support. I thank members of the press for their support and for adding value to our efforts. And I thank the GB members, past chairs, past presidents for their continued support. And a big thank you to all the members for keeping the spirit alive with your presence every session. We have many more interesting sessions in the upcoming month, and one more on August 29th. So looking forward to all your continued support. Thank you all once again.
Thank you so much, all of you. Hemu, from the tech trial.
Thanks, Rinku. Thanks. Thank you, Rinku.
Bye-bye.
And Jyoti, thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. My pleasure, Rinku. Bye-bye.
Amazing. I'm sure we have a long way ahead with you, even after this.
We'll talk after.
Priya, we could feel your enthusiasm and your joy today, really.
Yeah.
Hats off to you, Vanita. You guys are amazing. You've got a great team, and I'm sure it's going to really take off well. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rinku, for
Bye.
the amazing leader. Thank you.
Thanks.
Wishing the initiative all the very best. Thanks. Bye-bye.